I'm going to hit record. And Jillian, if you want to take it away, thanks for joining us.
Good. Awesome. Well, thank you, Shanda, and thank you all for being here. I'm Jillian Gartner, as Shanda mentioned, and I'm really excited to be here with you guys. I do genuinely want this to be a conversation, so I have some slides and tips prepared to give you guys some advice on how to use LinkedIn as a tool to prepare to be hired, and use it as a tool to help you get jobs, make connections, and be as prepared as possible, and use it as a tool to help you career-wise, and also from a networking perspective. So again, I want it to be a dialogue. Please jump in with questions. If there's any questions you guys have, please let me know. I, again, want it to be, I'd rather have it be a conversation than just me talking, because that's way more fun. So I can just dive in if that works for all of you. Can you guys see my screen okay?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So here's just a little bit about me. So I went to Drake University for undergrad, and that's the Alpha Iota chapter of Delta Sig that I was part of, and have had a number of different roles since I graduated. And I have some different roles listed on the screen, on the left side of the screen, but very excited to have continued volunteering in Delta Sig. Then I got my MBA at University of Findlay. It's a small school in Ohio, and I did it all online, which was really interesting, and a nice way to continue networking with folks that I otherwise wouldn't have met. And there were people, it was an online program, and I got to meet people all over the country. And then I wanted to continue learning, and I wanted to I earned a strategic leadership certificate from the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania. And that was also an online program that I did for about a year online as well. I like to joke that my first job, my first paying job, was with Little Tykes. So that is actually me on packaging of Little Tykes toolbox. So I was 4 years old and bribed with apple juice and animal crackers, but I was also paid like enough to pay for my first set of college textbooks. But the cool thing was, it was just like a fun opportunity, and I liked doing it. So I was like a little child model for Little Tykes, the toy company. And I have been fortunate to have worked for a number of different companies. I currently work at AWS and lead a digital marketing team, and we're focused on planning different campaigns on a global scale for the AWS Industries division. So we focus on the top 500 largest accounts at AWS, or Amazon Web Services. So it's a fun and dynamic group. And why I'm here and why I'm passionate about this is I have been fortunate to have had success on LinkedIn getting jobs. My last 4 jobs that I've had were from LinkedIn, either by me applying or by being found through headhunters searching on LinkedIn. So I want to pass along some tips to you all that might be helpful to cover. So first, I want to help give advice on how to help make your profile work for you, some settings that might help you get noticed by recruiters and hiring managers. Then some advice on how to embrace communities and ways to network on LinkedIn. And then I'll share some practices for posting on LinkedIn. By no means is it like the end all be all, but just some advice along the way. And then some best practices for applying for jobs on the platform. And again, this is based on my experience. I'm in marketing, so I'm not a recruiter. I'm not in HR, but I am just speaking from my own experience. All of this is my own content. So, I know there's lots of articles online that you can find that might be helpful. But again, I'm just sharing my own experiences for what it's worth in case it's helpful to you. So we can go ahead and get started. So first, there's 3 kind of tips to help make your profile work for you. They go around the themes of images, content, and credibility. So when it comes to images, you definitely want to make sure that you have a professional headshot or photo. And, ideally you want your, I read an article the other day that, and it was actually published by LinkedIn themselves, where they recommended that 60% of the actual photo space should take up your face. So I don't know if mine is like a best in class example, but you want to make sure that your head isn't taking up the whole space. Another practice that I'd recommend is updating your picture every 5 years. So as an example, people age over time, and I'm actually due for a new headshot. My headshot that's on the screen was taken 5 years ago, so I need to update my picture. And I actually just emailed a photographer that I know who can help me out and do that. But I'd recommend, I know at Delta Sig Lead events, there's almost always photographers there that can help you out. I'd also recommend, I really would recommend getting it professionally taken. And they can help you look natural. Mine is kind of like more stoic. And when I'm going to get mine retaken in about a month, it's going to be more relaxed. So I would recommend having one that works for you. And then I would also recommend having your header image be something unique to you. Have it be something that tells a story or something that will help you stand out from other people. So mine is actually a picture that I took myself. It's from property that my grandparents used to own that means a lot to me, and it's in upstate New York. And I took it probably 6 years ago, but it's a special place to me. It's unique, that no one else has, and helps me stand out. So, I've never used it in conversation with anyone, but if it ever came up of like, what's that picture in your profile? Tell me about it. I have a story, and I can elaborate if anyone ever asks about it. Then I would also, from a content standpoint, just really elaborate and remind you guys that your LinkedIn profile, yes, it contains information that is also on your resume, but it's not meant to replace your resume. So you don't want it to be long and drawn out. You don't want it to be, fully, a dissertation of everything you've ever done. Not that that's what your resume should be either. You want it to be clear, concise, and, a nice representation of what you've achieved professionally. And you also want to help really convey what you've done. And then you also want to make sure your headline in your, and I can show you on the next slide, your headline, which is directly under your profile picture, that many people state what their job title is, and then they might have another blurb. It's not just there for your job title. So you have the ability to be creative with it. Mine says my job title, and then it says, if I were to describe myself, what do I think of myself professionally as? And it says, my job title, but then it also says growth and revenue marketing leader. So that's not my job title, but that's how I would describe myself. So it's important that you distinguish that and make it known on your profile. And then finally, to help make your profile kind of work for you and stand out a little bit, I would definitely ask for endorsements and endorse others on your profile. And you can do that in the skills section. So I have a screenshot to the right that kind of shows how to do that. And then I also have an area, another screenshot that shows reputable certifications that you can list. So there's a certifications area. I just screenshotted my own, but every industry has their own certifications. Mine just happen to be marketing focused. If you don't have any certifications, there's a ton that are free. So I know if you can Google free certifications for your line of study, and there are almost always some type of certification that's available. LinkedIn also just released a bunch of skills tests, and if they're not necessarily tests, but they're like skills credibility areas, and you can actually take those too. That might be something that you could add there too. The point of these is that it's showing that, hey, because I have these certifications from well-known companies that are known leaders in what they do, I myself am also credible. In case someone that might be interviewing me that I haven't ever met before wants to learn more about me, that makes me that much more credible, or should, in their eyes. So by having these certifications from organizations that are known, it's helpful. So I have a mix of certifications that are paid and free. For marketing people, I would encourage checking out HubSpot and Google. They have a lot of free certifications. So just my 2 cents on that. Next, I would just a couple settings that I would recommend to help you get noticed by recruiters and hiring managers. This I can't stress enough. It's called the open to setting, and it's allowing you to say that you're open to work. I will caution, you'll want to be very cautious when you're setting this up so that you're not notifying your network that you're open to work. By notifying your network, that's basically posting on your profile that you're looking for a job. And that's sensitive if you are like me and already have a full-time job. I don't want my boss knowing that I'm looking for a job, even though that's totally not the case for me professionally. But if I were looking for a job or open to work, I wouldn't want my boss to know. So let's say you're in school and you're open to work, but you have an internship and you may not want other people to know. Or, you're just looking for your first full-time job. You can click the open to button underneath your profile picture. And then you can click finding a new job. So you're open to finding a new job, and that will show recruiters and other people that you're open to work. And you can select all of these different settings to help you find and help notify others the types of work you're interested in. So you can identify certain job titles that you're interested in. You can identify the type of workplace that's most ideal for you. You can also identify the start date. Like, are you ready to start now? Or are you flexible? You're casually browsing. You're not ready to start at this moment. And then what type of work are you looking for? Are you looking for full-time? Are you looking for contract gigs? Are you looking for an internship? What are you looking for? And then you can add it to your profile, and you can actually select how people see it. So if you only want recruiters to be able to see it, that's one thing versus, allowing it to be blasted out to your full network. So you want to make sure you look at those settings before, and be really judicious before you add it to your profile. And then the final piece on this section is I would recommend requesting recommendations. So this is typically on the bottom section of your profile, and it'll allow your network to speak on your behalf. And I would really think of this as your references section. So oftentimes when you're applying for jobs, you have people that will, if sometimes you're asked to supply a list of references. This is kind of like that, where but these are people who are digitally giving you recommendations. They're digitally speaking on your behalf, saying, Shanda did a great job at leading this event. I want to write about it, so that if other people are looking to hire her or recommend her for something, they know that I think she did a great job. And when you're asking for these people, definitely it's a good thing to ask for, but also be specific in what you want people to highlight. Don't just say like, hey Molly, I hope you think I'm good at marketing. Can you please give me a recommendation? Well, that's kind of generic. Hopefully she thinks I'm good at marketing because we've worked together a while. I'd rather be more specific. Hey, Molly, we've worked together for the last 5 years. Can you talk about these 3 campaigns and how I've really helped your business grow? Use examples. Or, hey, Tim, we've worked on a couple projects together in the last year. Can you give me a recommendation on LinkedIn and write about how my projects that I worked on with you helped your team? It can be things like that. And I think those can help you add credibility, not just by recruiters, but hiring managers. I've used these before when hiring people. I've looked at in lieu of using regular references and calling people. In some cases, calling references, depending on the company, it could be viewed as outdated. Now I check references and recommendations on LinkedIn. It's free, it's public, it's available, and they're only put on the profile if both people agree to do it. So it's definitely worthwhile. So I highly recommend it. And then next, I definitely would recommend using LinkedIn to embrace the power of community. And that's networking. Use it as a networking tool. Now that isn't like a surefire way to get a job. It's the long-term play. It's not, fixing up your profile so that you get the job tomorrow, but the combination of these things is going to help you in the long run. So I'm sure you guys have heard this, but it's not always what you know, but it's who you know. But I think to me, it's the combination of those two that really gets you those opportunities. And that's where networking comes into play. So I would recommend joining groups on LinkedIn. You can find them. So if you go to linkedin.com/groups, you'll be able to find a bunch of groups that pertain to what you're looking for. So if you're in finance or accounting, you'll be able to find those. If you're in sales or interested in IT or technology or marketing, you'll be able to find a ton of different groups. Join them. And I would recommend, there's like a scrolling news feed of different posts people are putting out there. People are talking the talk. They're trying to get noticed. And that's a great way of learning what the most commonly talked about subjects are in those industries, so that you can stay on top of trends and you can be the ones, in the future, potentially posting those top trends or, bringing those to your own communities or your own coworkers or your own chapters or your colleagues at school. You can say, hey, I saw this article on LinkedIn and I thought it was really interesting. You can find content and share it with other people, and people sharing content with one another in and of itself is really valuable. And it's just allowing other people to learn and share with one another. Many groups are free. Several outside of LinkedIn do require you to pay, but they are great for networking. So I know that I am part of one that's called the Peak community, and it's for sales, marketing, and revenue career path professionals. And that one has a sticker price from $10 a month all the way up to $300 a year. Depends on what your investment desire is and what you want to get out of it. So then there's some one on the bottom right called Pavilion is like $1,200 a year. So some are really expensive, some are really inexpensive. There's also like the American Marketing Association where you can join at the local chapter. I know like AICPA and Association of Financial Professionals, you can join those at your local chapters, I believe, and they're less expensive. So it's all about what you're up for, and they're not all about LinkedIn, but by joining those and by obviously connecting through others within Delta Sig, you'll want to connect with all of those people on LinkedIn, and it's building up your network. So it all ties together. All right, next, you'll want to, I just want to share just some best practices for posting on LinkedIn. So first and foremost, post on a schedule that works for you. If you want to post on LinkedIn, great. If you don't want to post, great. It's up to you. And some people, I know, like the gentleman that I shared an example on the screen, he posts every day, sometimes multiple times a day. He is a marketing evangelist. He works for a marketing technology company. He thinks it's his job to post every day, and he's known for posting every day. And I just wanted to share an example. Like the guy has built a following, but he's posted, he's found ways to engage people. He uses hashtags, like hashtag career. That's broad. That's a way to get people to engage. And you know, he used questions in a question in his post. He spoke in plain language, and the guy posted and he got 58 comments, and one person reshared it. Like that's pretty good, just all things considered. So I would say whatever you decide to do, make sure it works for you, make sure your content is authentic to you, and that it has a purpose. So again, I share the example on the screen that the content is authentic to Nick Bennett. I know him personally. I know that he writes from the heart. He writes to be clear, and he writes with purpose. And he writes to keep a conversation going. And with 58 comments, he clearly has done it. Now, when I posted on LinkedIn, have I had 58 comments? No, I'm lucky if I have 5, but that's fine. And I'm okay with that. I know that going into that, I'm not an influencer like Nick Bennett. But I'm good with that. I'm fine with that. And, you know, sometimes when I post, I'm sharing, I'm not, you know, speaking from the heart. I'm sharing a job that I'm hiring for, or I'm sharing a piece of content that one of my colleagues wrote, or I'm sharing an award that my employer just won, like something cool that other people might find interesting. So, you know, again, be yourself, and that's the most important thing. And posting regularly may not always get you hired, but it might be something, it's a way for people to get to know you. And you know, I've heard of some groups trying a post once a month and just see what happens. That might be something worth trying, but again, it's totally up to you. It's your brand. And, you know, if you want to test it, Again, you can test it for a while, see how it goes, and you might be pleasantly surprised with what you learn. And then finally, applying for jobs on LinkedIn. So this is fun. You can learn a lot, and it also can be discouraging sometimes, but can also end in the greatest ways. So my latest job that I am in now, I was encouraged to apply from a recruiter. I applied and then I got the job. So not all in that order. I had lots of interviews, but it worked out in the end. And I would first and foremost encourage you to follow the companies that you're interested in ever working for. That'll allow you to stay on top of what's happening with them. I also had one company that I ended up working for where I didn't follow them. I wasn't on top of the news. And during my interview process, they ended up selling off a fourth of their business the day of one of my in-person interviews. That would have been good to know about because they actually mentioned it in the interview. And had I known, that would have made me look a little bit better. So you never know what they're going to ask you. Then also always attach your resume and a cover letter when you have the option to do so. I know it's optional and often optional, especially when you're applying on LinkedIn. Sometimes companies let you convert your profile into a resume. My personal take is to just, if you have the resume, just save it in your own format and attach it yourself. I just don't trust the formatting. And if you have your own formatting, just avoid, cutting corners and just apply with your own format. And then next, if you applied and you don't hear back within a couple of weeks, sometimes the contact information or at least a generic email address is often added on the transactional email that you receive after you've applied for the email or after you've applied for the job. So check back on those emails that you've received. And if you haven't heard back for a while, definitely check it out and don't hesitate to reach out and just say, hi, my name's Jillian. I applied for this job and name the specific job and on which date you applied. Just curious where you're at in the process of interviews. I'm really interested in this role and look forward to hearing from you soon. You can keep it as simple as that. I think most companies wouldn't be discouraged by receiving an email like that. Some might find it proactive. I know when I applied at AWS, I had that happen. They were in the midst of interviews and they actually, they appreciated that I reached out because they were in the process of trying to figure out when it was best to schedule an interview. So you never know what employers have going on behind the scenes, and it doesn't hurt usually to reach out. So I rambled a lot. What questions do you guys have? I'm going to go ahead and just stop sharing my screen for right now.
Are there any other suggestions that you have because I have a lot of people that I work with that are on my LinkedIn, and that's one of the things I'm so worried about is looking for a job on LinkedIn. They're going to find something out. Is there any other caveats or things that you should look out for? Don't do this, so they might find out, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So I would say be cautious, when you're applying for jobs on LinkedIn, to not if there's any chance where you might accidentally share to your profile, just double check on your profile that you haven't shared anything to your network. The way that the job applications are set up, it's pretty hard to do that, but I would just double check your settings there, and then I would double check your open to settings.
Okay.
And just make sure that it's not showing, that it's showing to just recruiters only and not hiring managers as well.
Oh, okay, great. All right, thank you.
Yeah, because the hiring managers, that's where if there's a hiring manager at your own company, they could find you through that.
Oh, I see. Okay, thank you so much.
Yep. Yeah.
Hi, Jillian.
Hi.
I was wondering if you had any more advice on how to structure your LinkedIn bio and if you could possibly share yours.
Yeah, I would be happy to share mine. So I actually pulled mine up just in case. And I'll put mine in the chat. And then I can go ahead and pull mine up and just share my profile too. So here's my profile. Can you guys see it okay?
Yeah.
So my section, I basically state, I try to use pretty plain language, and I would recommend that you do the same. Like, and I want to actually update mine so that I update some of these kind of filler words, but basically, to be as direct as possible, to state like, what are you best at? What are you good at? And why would someone hire you? And so for me, like, I want to state that I'm a digital marketing leader and I deliver results and I can work with anybody. And so I tried to state like I've worked at all different types of environments and I can drive strong ROI. That's a big deal in marketing. And then I would also include writing your specialties. So if there's things that you have experience in, and I would also recommend looking at the job descriptions of what you're applying for. So if there's technology that they require, or if there's technology they require experience in, or if there's basically functions or areas of experience that they're requiring that you have, make sure that's in your profile and listed in the specialties section if it's something you truly are really good at, and being clear about it. So you don't always have to structure it this way, but that's something that I've chosen to do. For me, in my marketing, my line of marketing is digital marketing. And so it's important that they see the marketing technology I've used, what I'm good at, and more about me.
That's great. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. What other questions do you have? And I'd be happy to connect with all of you too, anytime.
Do you do any project management? Is that part of what you do, or?
For me, project management is part of what I do, but it's like part of the job, but it's not necessarily something that they typically call out in my day-to-day, which is kind of weird.
Oh.
They probably should.
Okay, because it kind of sounded like it when you were saying what you do.
Yeah, I do actually do a lot of project management for my team.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. My team gets a lot of like intake requests from other teams, and I make sure that the work gets done and according to budget and all of that. So yeah, quite a bit of project management.
It sounds like it, yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, some good questions. How about any other questions? Jillian's got lots of great experience to share if you're looking.
I have another question.
Sure.
So for the experience description, do you prefer to use bullet point or like the paragraph?
In the experience section, so let me just make sure. So in the experience section, I think it depends on the person. For me, I actually just listed mine in sentences, but very brief. I have like 2 or 3 sentences about what I do. And again, it's more about summarizing what I've done, and creating more of like a summary conversation of what I've achieved rather than bullets. But I know it varies person to person, but I would say it's a personal preference, but I would make sure that it's not like verbatim what your resume says.
Yeah, thank you so much for answering my questions.
Yeah, of course.
All right. Any other questions? For Jillian, any last words of wisdom? Because we certainly will let folks go if you have taught them all they need to know at this point.
I would say if you are, interested in looking for a job, don't be afraid to use that open to opportunities. I have mine on. I've had it on for probably 6 years. And no one has asked me questions about it or found out. I haven't gotten in trouble at my employer.
That's good.
So use it at your own risk, I guess. I haven't been caught or in trouble, but it also, I can play the card that I've had it on. It's my own social media profile, and I can turn it off at any time too. So, it has no rule over my dedication to my employer. So that's been the setting that has kind of opened the floodgates, I think, for me, not necessarily floodgates, because I don't have floodgates open, but I think also like recruiters are looking at all levels. So definitely if you search for recruiters on LinkedIn, you'll find a lot, and don't be afraid to follow some of them either, because they're often posting, and it's good to find some that are recruiting in your field, and follow them too. So, and you can get those by asking people in your area that you might know of, in certain networking groups that you trust, if you really are diving deep to find a new job, and want to talk with a recruiter. But I would say those are probably the best tips I have for right now. But again, they're all my own advice. I'm just in marketing. I'm not a recruiter or in HR, but I'm just speaking from my own experiences. Hopefully it's helpful to you guys.
Excellent. Well, Jillian, thank you so much. Appreciate your continued volunteerism with Delta Sig in so many ways. And thanks to everyone for attending tonight. Keep an eye out. We have webinars a few times a month on wide variety of topics. So if it's not for you, it might be for someone else that you know. So, let others in your chapter know that these opportunities exist. We have lead events starting in a couple of weeks around the country. So hopefully I'll see a lot of your faces at those. But in the meantime, have a great evening. And again, Jillian, thank you for everything.
Great. Well, thank you all for joining. Hopefully this is helpful.